spend a lot more time on this. What one person finds challenging may not be challenging to another. Very quickly, what do you find challenging in terms of behaviour? Yeah.
I find the encouragement to write my son sometimes injures himself is quite challenging to do. Things like banging his head.
Self-harm, self-injury. Yeah. And I would guess the challenge of that comes from that it makes us feel disempowered. It makes us feel I should be able to do something as a parent. I'm an adult, I should be able to manage that kind of behaviour, but I can't. And that's part of the challenge, yeah.
When it's very physical,
Yeah.
with your sister,
Yeah.
that really is kind of, even if like you're kind of like stopping it,
Yeah.
2 seconds later, without you know they're doing it again. So
Yeah. There's a lot of things I could spend the rest of the hour talking about that, really. But, yeah, absolutely, the physical challenging behaviour. Interesting phrase there, when we stop it, it comes back again. There's great danger in stopping behaviour in autism without putting something else in its place, without understanding the function. Maybe we'll get there. Anybody else? Just quickly.
Bad and unhealthy habits.
Dare I ask? Because you had that look, you know. Yeah.
He loves socks.
Yeah.
And he dips them in the toilet.
Yeah. Ah, wonderful. If we get around to it, I'll explain that, possibly. Don't guarantee, but I may explain that. Okay. If we had a chance to get you to list all the things you find challenging, and I put them behind me, some of you will be saying, that's really challenging. And that's not that bad. And what I want to get over is this. Whatever you find challenging is challenging. If it is not challenging to your partner, that does not matter. As long as you find it challenging, it's challenging. What do I mean by that? We all have different thresholds of challenge. There'll be some things you can't cope with. With me, it's kids, don't know if any of your children do it, children who are deliberately sick. I find that really difficult. You know, you're working with them, you want them to do something, and they're sick all over the place, as a deliberate strategy to stop the activity. After 30 years, I still can't work effectively. That's very challenging to me. Other people, it's the physical things of eating, kicking, spitting. Some people I work with are challenging things of swearing in public. And there is no hierarchy. In other words, one challenge is not more challenging than another. It depends how you perceive it. And what we do as professionals to parents, and what parents do within families is this, is saying, look, get a life, you should be able to manage that. If you can't manage that, you can't manage it. And you shouldn't feel guilty about it. Does that make sense to people? And just to illustrate it, I thought a parent phoned me. I didn't mention I spent 30 years in special schools, etc. And I phoned the parent and said, how's it been this weekend? And she said, oh, it's been absolutely terrible. I said, okay, what's he been doing? And she said, we bought a new carpet and he spent the whole of the weekend writing rude words in the carpet. And she found that very challenging. I thought it was quite good because we're in French and Russian and all kinds of things. But anyway, she found it challenging. When I talked about it in the staff meeting, somebody said, she wants to get a life, all you need to do is hoover it. But to her, it's the worst thing in the world because her carpets are precious. It meant something. Therefore, it was the most challenging thing. Found another parent and said, how's it been? And she said, not too bad. And you know when she said not too bad, you explore. And I said, not too bad. I said, what's he done then? She said, I was doing the hoovering. And suddenly the lights go out, the hoover stops. And I said, what do you do? She said, I thought I'd go and look and see what the matter was. She went to the cupboard where the fuse box was, opened the cupboard door, and he dismantled the fuse box. And there's 3 electric wires hanging there. And I said, what do you do? She said, oh, I thought I'd go and look for it. And so she went to look for it, and she found it in the lounge. He'd taken all the furniture, pushed it to the back of the lounge, and there, crowning this pile of furniture, was the fuse box. And I said, how do you manage that? And she says, you know what, Jeff? At least in our house, we know where everything is. And you've got parents who can't cope with a mark in the carpet, parents who live without the carpet. And it's easy to say the second one is challenging, the first one isn't. but actually they're both equally challenging. And sometimes we beat ourselves up. Men particularly, I'm glad there's men here. They don't always say it, because we don't, do we? But men, when I'm working in men's groups, they often say to me, I find it challenging because I should be able to manage it. It's only a little 5-year-old who's kicking me. I should be able to manage that. If you find it difficult to manage, that's okay. The start of managing things is working with ourselves, acknowledging what we can do and what we can't do without beating ourselves up. It helps when we keep problems in perspective. Worked with, someone came to me one day and said to me, I can't work with him anymore. I said, why not? She says, he's masturbating all the time. And I said, are you sure? She says, yeah. I said, is he doing it all the time? She says, yeah. I said, does he do it when he's on his bike? Because I thought if he could do it on his bike, that's multitasking at its best, isn't it? And it's regulating emotions and feelings, isn't it? Oh, what wonderful skills. I thought, you know, a bit of creativity, we can find some way of using that. I'm not sure how. He says, of course not. Does he do it when? No. Does he do it when he swims? No. Does he do it when he's having his... And suddenly the penny drops and says, you know what, he's not doing it all the time. And what I want to get over is quite simple this. We have to keep problems in perspective. Because if we all have things that really get to us, and the dangers, we blow them out of proportion. And all we do then is see the problem. And we no longer see the child. We no longer see the individual. I go into schools, I know when that's happened. I work a lot in mainstream schools where they're having difficulties with children's behaviour. If I go into school and they say, oh, he's a runner, I know now we're seeing the problem and not the child. He's the spitter. She's the one who screams all the time. We are seeing the problem and not the child. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with it is we stop seeing the progress that the child's making. We stop seeing the strengths of the child. We stop seeing the abilities of the child. And all those things the child is giving us to work with to change behaviour. Because we concentrate on the problem. If you see problems, you end up with problems. And when looking at the most difficult behaviours, one of the key things for me is, what does the solution look like? We are all brilliant. If I was working with you, you'll be brilliant at telling me what the problem looks like. We need to turn that around, don't we? What does the solution? I don't want to be problem focused. I want to be solution focused. When I was in management, we had a little stick on the door. Don't bring me your problems. This was for staff. Don't bring me your problems. Bring me your solutions for actions. And when we're working with behaviour, it's important to analyse the behaviour. It's important to understand the behaviour, but not to dwell on it. We should be spending more time discussing what we're doing than the actual problem and difficulty. So we need to keep things in perspective. We need to be aware of our language and attitudes around behaviour. How we think affects how we behave. The words we use affects how we work with children. Just some quick ones. We need to learn to describe behaviours, not label them. Is a runner is what? It is a label for his behaviour. If I describe it, every day at 10 to 4 he stands up, he runs out of the classroom, he runs across, he hits so-and-so on the way. I am beginning to have a working definition of the problem that I can then work with. But if I just say he's a runner, he's violent, he's aggressive, it gives me no information to work with. And so the more we can describe the problem, the better we are at seeing, understanding it, and communicating it to others. When I've got longer on this, I'll go around and say, what is aggressive? I would guess I get 100 different descriptions of aggressive. Therefore, aggressive is not a good word to use. He hits people at 5 to 3 on the head and kicks their kneecap twice. It tells me something. Getting near the end of the day. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's transitions. But aggression as a label doesn't help. Avoid aggressions. How many of you are attention seekers? Come on, be honest with me. 1. I don't believe it. How many of you spent ages before you came here? Stood in front of the mirror doing the hair? You can tell I didn't. Yeah. Getting the clothes right? Yeah. We're not attention seekers, are we? Because only people with autism and learning disabilities and fragile legs are attention seekers. Absolutely rubbish, isn't it? But one of the biggest reasons, when I say to people, what's the behaviour about it? It says, oh, attention seeking. As though attention seeking is negative. It is a human behaviour. I've never worked with a child yet, and I'm probably into the thousands, who sought attention when they didn't need it. If you seek attention as a child with autism, it's because you need attention. One of the things I've done today, and I always do, I've sat listening to conversations, and I've heard people say, oh, we ignore him. One of the leading experts on behaviour in the world is Gary Lavinia. Lavinia says this, ignore behaviour in autism at your peril. I'll just qualify that. It doesn't mean you never ignore, but you have to be absolutely certain that ignoring is the right strategy. Why does he say that? Because if you ignore, you push the behaviour, and you push it, and the child pushes it till you can no longer ignore. Do you find that happens with your child? I've worked with people and they're being told by ignore it, and the child does that and you ignore it. I've ignored it now, that's great. Does it a bit harder, you ignore it. Slaps you around the head, it's getting harder, isn't it? You're in Marks and Spencer's, out comes a willy. That is not easy to ignore. And you find yourself intervening. Look, most of the time, you are going to intervene. Why wait till the child pushes the behaviour and controls us into intervening? Why, if I decide that when the child does that, I'm going to do something, I am not giving in to that behaviour, I'm taking control of that behaviour, and that's very different. I am acting when I want to act, and not when the child forces me to act. I was with two people this week, two families, different families, and the children with autism got the whole of the house and family totally under their control. I'm saying, you have to take control back. Yeah, but we've been told to ignore it, it'll stop. Unless you meet the need for the attention seeking, the behaviour does not go away because we don't take any notice. It just changes and extends. If you know ignoring is going to work, that's fine. Any doubts, you have to intervene. Or they push it and push it and push it. Attention seeking. We should give the attention when we feel it's right to give it. People always say to me, yeah, but if we give attention, it's giving in. If I give attention, I want more. Of course they will, initially. But eventually they learn, well, however I behave, I get positive regard and attention from the people about me. Therefore, that attention is not reliant upon my behaviour. I'll get attention anyway, so I don't need to misbehave to get attention. I don't need to be attention seeker because I get it anyway. I hope that makes sense, and it needs exploring. I have found initially when you start to work this way, you get more behaviours. Eventually the child begins to realise, I get it, whatever. If I'm the best kid in the world, I get attention. If I'm having the worst moment in the world, I still get attention. So I just need to be me. That's a bit simplistic. But there we are. Attention seeking. We've already tried everything. That is significant of someone who has probably tried everything and lost confidence. And I'll talk about that in a moment. He knows what he's doing. The people say that about your children when they're having those difficult behaviours. He knows what he's doing. Therefore, if he knows what he's doing, he should be able to manage it. That's rubbish. I'm quite proud of the moment. I've lost about 2 stone. Before that, I had quite a big belly. Did I know the behaviour that caused me to put weight on? Absolutely. It's called Ginster's Cornish pasties. Do I know where the behaviour occurs? I travel 1,000 miles a week on average. Do I know where the behaviour occurs? Yes, service stations and motorways. Do I know when it occurs? Yes, I know when it occurs. It occurs halfway through the morning and dinner time and halfway through the afternoon, whenever I stop at service stations. Does that knowledge of my behaviour mean that I can manage my own behaviour? Absolutely not. Knowing about your behaviour does not lead to managing it. Some of you will smoke. I spotted you outside earlier. Some of you smoke. Do you know you smoke? Well, of course. Do you know the consequence? Of course. Does that mean you can stop now? Absolutely not. Because simply knowing does not mean you need something outside you. You know, the best job in the world, I think, is Weight Watchers people. I don't know what they're called. Weight Watchers people. What do? You go to Weight Watchers, and I said to someone, you know, what happens at Weight Watchers? And said, oh, we get on the scales and they weigh us and they tell us how much weight we've put on or lost, and then we give them £7 or whatever it is. I said, well, go to the kitchen, give me your £7, I'll weigh you. And I don't see why you're getting weighed anyway, because I don't know if you're the same, but before you go to Weight Watchers, you're usually on the scales 10 times that day anyway. So, look, why do you go to Weight Watchers? Because you need someone outside the situation to tell you what you already know and to explore strategies with you, to give you advice, to give you strength to do what is needed. You need an outside agency. When people with autism have challenging behaviour and people with fragile X in them, look, they may be able to tell you what they're doing, but they still need someone outside to tell them, this is your behaviour. In other words, you put £2 on, this is what you've done, and there are some strategies, there is some advice that you can use. And what does Weight Watchers do? It monitors your change. And people with autism, people with fragile X, need that outside person. It's his autism. I don't know enough about fragile X, but the people say, oh, it's his fragile X that makes him behave like that. It's not. It's because you get something out of your behaviour. And your behaviour's achieved something for you. Somebody said to me recently, can children with autism be naughty? Absolutely. Just like other children, if they're not, then I teach them, because I think it's important to be naughty sometimes, don't you? You may disagree if you can live with it. Yeah. But it's that thing, it's not his autism, it's that behaviour works and pays off and brings you something. I don't know if anyone from National Autism Society is here, but I absolutely love the t-shirt that says, I'm not naughty, I'm autistic. It's not, that is not acceptable behaviour, whoever you are. And they're the kind of things that I'm trying to explore with you about starting with us. The other thing you might